What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking up for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market right now, what just happened with CPI, what data is coming out tomorrow that will cause a big move in the markets, and also what shorts are doing to NIO right now that's actually playing a big role in why NIO is underperforming relative to the market right now. Now, before I break anything down about this, before I get into any more details and talk about what could happen to NIO's share price for tomorrow, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to NIO, guys, NIO is actually underperforming once again relative to the market, and that's because of the fact that we are seeing some negative earnings for different EVs out there. We're also seeing weakness in the price in general from a technical aspect, and also it's happening because of the fact that we're seeing excessive shorting for NIO right now. So the real question is, how will this affect NIO going forward? I'm going to break that down in just a couple of minutes in terms of the share price, but we first have to talk about the news, the data that just came out. CPI came out, and overall, I wouldn't say it was a good number, but it also wasn't too horrible. It was actually in line with expectations. But you have to remember the fact that CPI was up 6% from a year ago, which is still well above the Fed's target of 2%. So CPI is still hot. But the good thing about this is the fact that we are seeing some signs that we are on a bit of a downtrend, and that we already saw the peak back in June, and it's continuing to downtrend overall. Now, is this guaranteed? The answer is I can't say this with 100% certainty. As of right now, the data is suggesting it, but we have to wait and see what happens going into like the summer, because we do have a tendency of seeing CPI increase during times like that, at least from a cyclical basis. And until then, we'll just have to wait. But I just want to note that this overall report that came out was not that bad, and the market did respond very positively to it. So now the real question is, what's going to happen for tomorrow? Well, considering the fact that CPI was, in line with expectations, and let me just show you what I mean by that. Looking at the data just briefly, core CPI was 5.5% alongside the consensus of 5.5%, so it was in line with expectations. That's core CPI. The overall CPI was 6%. That's in line with expectations once again. Month over month, same. It was actually in line, actually a little bit higher month over month, but overall, I mean, it wasn't like too horrible overall, right? This wasn't like way higher than what we expected it to be. So that's part of why the market actually continued to pump. Also, the data in itself is once again showing some signs of decline. The market loved it, and this is now incentivizing the Fed to not be as hawkish as some people were initially thinking. And it's not just CPI, it's also because of what's happening with the banks collapsing, also because of Americans struggling, and etc. Who knows, maybe the Fed won't give us 50 basis points, they might just give us 25 basis points. And there's some talk about the Fed pausing. We don't know that for sure. I would actually not like them to pause. I think the Fed should keep going. And there's still a lot of work that has to be done. Now, why is tomorrow significant? Well, look at how the market moved. We actually saw a very big move recently. NIO actually started like right here. So NIO did underperform from the beginning. That was after Xbox earnings and also because of the excessive shorting. I'm going to talk about that in a few though. But we have PPI coming out, right? If you think today was a big day and when it comes to the way SPY was moving in the markets, PPI is going to be just as important because we have the producer price index. And this once again is like CPI from the wholesale side. This is going to tell us how are the producers doing, how are wholesalers doing during a time like this. And I believe it's going to be very significant and very important to look at the specific numbers. We actually have the forecasts in place. We have about a PPI of about 5.4% as the consensus, with core being around 5.2%. So we want this thing to be as expected for the market to continue to hold, but there's a chance it could be a little hot. So be very careful for tomorrow when the market opens. Now, I just want you all to know when it comes to NIO, there's been an increase in the short volume. We're seeing a lot more shorting making up the volume, and we're continuing to see an uptrend in it, which tells me that the shorts, the sellers, are gaining more power over the stock. With only 34 million in volume, that's not the best of volumes. NIO is dropping once again on this. We're not tanking like insanely hard, but we are actually underperforming relative to the market because the triple Q in the tech sector is holding up a lot better, but NIO is underperforming. Now, you can see right here, the price pairs ratio is very low, which means NIO once again is underperforming, and we're continuing to see it show signs of weakness. There's not much else in the data. Just know that on Wednesdays, NIO does tend to do better and actually have green days. I would hope for that, but it depends a lot on the data. But what does kind of concern me a bit is the fact that we only saw a few million NIO shares shorted a couple of days ago. And as of just a few days ago, we saw the short interest actually increase now that the data is out. And we saw over 7 million NIO shares shorted. So we're seeing lots of shorts piling in. And this is actually a relatively high short interest, one of the highest we've seen in quite a while. There've only been a couple of days over the last couple of months where NIO had more shares shorted on a single day, which means that shorts are piling in. Now, on top of that, XPeng was hit with their earnings, which are not that great. We did see a decrease in their margins, and the overall deliveries were a little bit soft because of Lunar New Year and also because of other factors. We have to be very careful here. When we start to see one company suffer, this does have a tendency of having a ripple effect on other companies in the EV sector. Because XPeng is so closely related to NIO in the eyes of investors and Li Auto, because of the fact that XPeng did suffer a bit, this did have an effect on NIO. It did actually affect the share price to some degree. Now, what I'm essentially saying though is NIO is holding above 8.33, the next major level of support. If you're bearish on NIO, you're going to be looking for a break below 8.33. If it breaks below 8.33, we actually have pretty strong support there. But if it breaks that, you have to watch $8. That's the next major support, $8. It could come all the way down if 8.33 fails. If you're bullish on NIO, as it's getting very tight right now, you could argue that maybe PPI helps and maybe it's like, it's long overdue for NIO to get a bounce, especially because Wednesdays right here tend to be better days for NIO 55% of the time. So if you're bullish, you're going to be looking for a break above 8.7, around 8.7 to 8.72, this zone right here. If you could break 8.7, this thing's going to fly to the nines, get all the way to the nines if you could break out of this key resistance. All right, so that's what the chart's basically telling us. I want to keep the TA very simple in this video, and the reason for that is because I actually have a power outage right now due to the winds outside of me. The winds are really bad, and because of the power outage, I don't want to switch between charts. It actually causes my screen to lag a lot, so no matter what I use. So I'm just going to keep it on here and just keep this very simple. It could go either way. What I'm thinking though is you need to be prepared for anything because PPI is coming out in the morning. I believe the market is going to actually uh, uh, it might, whether it gaps up or not, we're likely going to see a slight pullback. That's what I'm basically thinking, followed by a nice run up by open. So luckily this loaded, but I think we're going to see something very similar to this. We might actually come down to fill this gap first into like the mid 380s, then get a really nice bounce and actually close very flat. That's what I'm seeing for tomorrow. That's just my guess. But I believe the tech sector, like stocks like Tesla, are going to hold up a lot better. I think a lot of stocks are bound to do that, at least temporarily. And this could be a trap for lots of retail because we have quadruple witching at the end of the week. This means that there are lots of options expirations. There are over 3 million puts expiring for SPY. The market makers might try to pump the markets by the end of the week. They might try it, and they're actually showing signs of trying to do it. You can see right here, we came down, we got a big pump at the end to close green thanks to the 0 data expiration options. They might artificially pump the markets to cause pain for shorts, and this will actually help them on a day-to-day basis. Now for NIO, luckily my charts are actually loading quickly. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you to be prepared for anything because once again, big data is coming out. But I'm hoping that NIO could try to retest 8.3 and maybe get a bounce off of it. Try to bounce off of it as long as it does not break below 8.3, 8.33. Then we might try to push for 8.7. I don't know if we're going to break it yet. we might try to retest it and we might fail and end up closing somewhere in the eights, a little bit in the green. So I am seeing a potential green day for tomorrow for NIO. I'm hoping we get a bit of a rebound as NIO has been underperforming, and hopefully the market helps it. My guess for the market is the market's going to likely pull back a bit around like the morning time. I think this might actually affect NIO. Once the market fills the gap, once SPY fills its gap, the market's likely going to bounce. That might help NIO at the end of the day to push up and close a little bit in the green, just below 8.7, hopefully. So that's what I'm hoping for. We do have a possible inverse head and shoulders like formation, but if we break below like 8.33, we could invalidate this if we just continue to break down. We'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, I am hoping for a bounce for tomorrow. Anyways, that's what I have for this video. I want to thank each and every one of you so much for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.